Every night, you're either programming your mind or letting it decay. This ancient Shaolin ritual decides your future while the world sleeps. Stillness is something most people fear, even if they don't admit it. They fill their lives with noise, movement, and distraction, not because they are truly busy, but because they are terrified of what might arise in silence. In the quiet, we face our own thoughts, our disappointments, our unhealed pain, and our unfulfilled potential. The night, more than any other time, forces us to be with ourselves. When the distractions of the day fade and there are no more tasks to complete, the mind turns inward. That is when the mirror appears, not the physical mirror hanging on your wall, but the invisible one that reflects your state of being, your patterns, and your truth. Stillness is that mirror, and the night ritual, done with intention, is how you clean it. Most people escape this reflection by default. They pick up their phone, they scroll, they binge, they numb. Every night becomes an unconscious, surrendered distraction. But there is another path, a quieter, deeper one. In that path, the ritual begins not with action, but with awareness. You sit, you breathe, and you ask the question few dare to ask. What did I do with this day that was just gifted to me? Was I present? Did I speak truthfully? Did I avoid what I feared, or did I step forward? These questions are not for judgment. They are for alignment. Alignment with who you want to become. There is power in choosing to be still, not just physically, but mentally, to pause before reacting, to observe before speaking, to reflect before sleeping. This form of stillness is not laziness, it is presence. It is the conscious decision to return to yourself each night, to gently close the loop on the day and ensure you are not blindly repeating the same mistakes tomorrow. That's why the night ritual is so important. It creates a sacred space between the life you are living and the life you are becoming. And in that space, real transformation begins. People often underestimate the role of awareness in change. They look for motivation, tips, and hacks, but none of those matter if you are not aware of your own patterns. Stillness shows you those patterns. In the silence of the night, you begin to see where your energy leaks, where your time is wasted, and where your thoughts sabotage your progress. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary. Without that confrontation, you remain stuck, forever reacting, never evolving. Ritual gives you the pause required to shift. Some call this meditation, others call it reflection. But at its core, it's about becoming intimate with your own mind. It's about creating a habit of facing yourself, not once a year or once a month, but every single night. 10 minutes of silence can reveal more than 10 hours of noise, but most people never give themselves those 10 minutes. They fill them with stimulation, thinking they are relaxing, when in reality they are running. Running from truth, running from discomfort, running from themselves. The ones who choose stillness, however, begin to notice something different. Over time, they grow less reactive. Their decisions become clearer. Their emotional chaos starts to settle. Not because life gets easier, but because they get stronger. And that strength doesn't come from lifting weights or shouting affirmations. It comes from the quiet consistency of the ritual, the discipline to return to stillness every night, no matter how noisy the day was. That discipline, that return to self, builds something that no amount of external success can offer. It builds inner authority. When you begin to treat your nights as sacred, you reclaim time that the world is trying to steal from you. And not just time in hours, but time in attention, energy, and emotion. You no longer go to sleep as an escape from the day. You go to sleep having completed it, having reflected, having learned, having grown. That shift changes everything, because what you do before sleep doesn't just affect your rest. It affects your subconscious. It shapes how you wake up. It sets the emotional tone of your next day. This is why stillness is not a passive act. It is a preparation. Like sharpening a sword before a battle, your night ritual sharpens your mind for the challenges ahead. The world you wake up to will still be noisy, but you will not be controlled by it, because you took the time to reset your mind in the quiet. That is what the ritual is for, not for performance, not for productivity, but for peace. Peace that stays with you even in chaos. Peace that cannot be taken because it was built slowly, night by night, in the moments no one else saw. Attention is the most valuable currency in the modern world. Companies spend billions to steal it. Devices are designed to hijack it. And the more you lose it, the harder it becomes to think clearly, to stay grounded, to follow through. Every time you pick up your phone without intention, you're handing over your attention. Every time you let your night be consumed by passive consumption, you're giving away the very thing that shapes your future. This isn't just about distraction, it's about power. Who has control over your mind at the end of the day? If you don't protect your attention at night, you cannot expect to have clarity in the morning. You can drink the green juice, do the workout, and write the goals, but if your mind is clouded, your results will be too. Clarity doesn't start with action, it starts with space, with presence, and that begins the night before. The night ritual is the guard at the gate of your mind. It filters out the noise and makes space for intention to rise. It reminds you that you are not a slave to your impulses. You are the architect of your awareness. People often say they want to change their life, but change requires attention, not scattered, distracted attention. Focused, disciplined attention. If your mind is hijacked every night, your goals become hollow wishes. Because your attention is what fuels your habits. And your habits are what shape your destiny. That's why the night ritual matters. It's not just self-care. It's self-leadership. It's you taking back ownership of your mind before sleep, so you don't carry unconscious noise into your dreams, your mood, your decisions. Attention is not just about what you look at. It's about what you choose to ignore. The discipline to look away from things that do not serve your growth is rare. Most people follow whatever glows, whatever pops up, whatever promises a dopamine hit. But when you choose the ritual, you choose to look inward instead of outward. You train yourself to find stimulation in self-awareness, not in scrolling. You begin to experience the subtle satisfaction of alignment rather than the loud distraction of entertainment. When you do this consistently, your mind starts to change. You begin to notice what pulls you off course, and you start to resist it naturally. Your emotional reactivity lowers, your self-control increases, not because you force yourself, but because you've trained yourself. Like a monk sharpening his sword not in battle, but in solitude. You shape up your attention not when life is demanding it, but when you have the space to refine it. The night gives you that space. The ritual uses it. This is why a true night ritual is not about what you do. It's about what you protect. You protect the boundary between the world and your mind. You create a buffer between the external chaos and your internal clarity. You signal to your subconscious that you are not reactive. You are intentional. That message compounds. Over weeks, months, and years, it becomes identity. And identity is what carries you through when motivation fades. People often confuse willpower with discipline. Willpower is emotional. Discipline is structural. The night ritual builds that structure. It trains your nervous system to find peace in repetition, to associate stillness with power, and to view attention not as a luxury, but as a responsibility. Every night you perform your ritual, you are choosing to control what you feed your mind. You are choosing to lead yourself, and that choice builds something unshakable within you. In a world where everyone is consuming, the one who pauses to reflect becomes rare, and the rare are often the ones who lead, not by being louder, but by being more centered. You don't need to outwork the world. You need to out-align it. Your attention is your alignment. And your night ritual is the training ground. Protect it. Return to it. Trust it. It will take time. It will take patience. But it will give you back the one thing the world is trying to steal your mind. Growth is not something that suddenly appears in our lives through major events or dramatic moments. True growth is subtle. It is quiet. It happens in the spaces most people ignore. The reason many people stay stuck, repeating the same patterns year after year, is not because they don't take action, but because they don't reflect. They keep moving forward without ever pausing to look back. They climb without checking if they're on the right mountain. This is why reflection is more powerful than constant action. Reflection gives meaning to your efforts. It reveals the hidden layers beneath your choices. It exposes the blind spots in your behavior. Without it, you're simply running faster in the wrong direction. The night ritual is not about adding more to your life. It is about taking a step back, creating space, and asking the most important question that people avoid in their daily rush. Who am I becoming through the things I did today? This question has nothing to do with productivity or achievement. It's about character. It's about direction. It's about alignment. You can achieve your goals and still become someone you don't respect if you don't check in with yourself. That's why the ritual matters. It makes sure you're not just living. It ensures you're living as the person you truly want to become. There is a common trap people fall into. They confuse being busy with being intentional. But there is a difference. Business is about movement. Intention is about meaning. The night ritual separates the two. It gives you the opportunity to sit with your day and extract lessons from it. Not in judgment, but in awareness. What triggered you today? What gave you peace? What did you avoid? These questions create a foundation for emotional intelligence. Over time, the answers begin to shape how you approach tomorrow. You don't repeat mistakes blindly, you adjust. You grow, you refine. Growth that is not reflected upon often becomes distorted. You may start something with good intentions, but without regular check, those intentions can get buried under ego, pressure, or fear. The ritual brings you back to your center. It asks you to strip away the external noise and return to the internal compass. That compass needs maintenance. If left unchecked, it gets thrown off by the opinions of others, the chaos of the world, and the weight of your past. But each night you take time to reflect, that compass gets realigned. You remember who you are. You remember why you started. There is something sacred about looking at your own life without filters, no pretending, no performing. Just honest observation. Most people never do it. They don't want to face what they'll see. But avoidance doesn't remove the truth. It just delays the lesson. The longer you delay, the more you drift. The ritual stops the drift. It brings you face to face with your reality and gives you the chance to choose differently. That is where growth lives. Not in the doing, but in the understanding behind the doing. Not in the habit itself, but in the awareness of how the habit shapes you. There is also healing in reflection. When you observe your day without judgment, you begin to notice patterns that once hurt you, now starting to fade. You see the moments where you responded with more calm than before. You recognize the small wins, the subtle shifts, the quiet victories. These are easy to miss in a loud world. But they matter. They build confidence from the inside. They show you that change is real, that growth is happening. And once you begin to see your own evolution, you become more committed to it. The night ritual creates this space, a space where you become the witness of your own transformation. Some people chase growth through books, courses, or external teachers. But the most powerful teacher you will ever have is your own experience. Your life is constantly teaching you. The question is, are you listening? Are you pausing long enough to hear the lesson? The ritual is how you listen. It is how you sit down each night, not just to rest your body, but to train your mind. Not with pressure, but with presence. And the more you do it, the more you sharpen your inner awareness. That awareness then becomes the root of wise action, not reactive action. Conscious, intentional, grounded action. Discipline is often romanticized as something built in the early hours of the day. The idea of rising before the sun, dominating the morning, and achieving before others wake up has become a popular narrative. But discipline does not start in the morning. Discipline is protected at night. It is preserved through the choices you make when no one is watching. What you do in the final moments of your day determines how you begin the next one. You cannot expect to wake up with clarity if you go to bed in chaos. The quality of your rest, your thoughts, and your emotional state are all shaped by your evening behavior. This is where the night ritual becomes more than just a habit. It becomes a guardrail, a sacred boundary that keeps you from slipping back into patterns that no longer serve you. It's easy to be disciplined when the sun is rising and your motivation is high. But it is in the quiet, uncelebrated hours of the night where your true discipline is tested. Will you choose the easy pleasure of scrolling or the harder reward of stillness? Will you end your day passively or with purpose? These questions define more than just your evening. They define your self-respect. The brain craves closure. It seeks completion. When you don't offer it that closure at night, it carries the unfinished thoughts, worries, and emotions into your sleep. This affects not only the quality of your rest, but also your ability to reset and start anew. The night ritual gives your mind that closure. It allows you to wrap up the day with intention. It gives you the space to release what no longer serves you and hold on to what truly matters. That release is a form of self-care. But more than that, it is a form of emotional maturity. True discipline is not about forcing yourself to do hard things. It is about creating systems that make the right choice the natural one. The night ritual is one of those systems. It becomes a signal to your mind that the day is complete, that you have done what you could, and now it is time to rest with clarity, not confusion. This structure removes the friction that often leads to mindless habits. It replaces uncertainty with routine, not a rigid routine, but a meaningful one. A ritual that invites you to step into a higher version of yourself every single night. When this becomes consistent, your identity begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone who needs motivation to stay on track. You see yourself as someone who honors their time, their mind, and their energy. This identity shift is what sustains long-term growth. It's no longer about forcing the habit. It becomes who you are, the kind of person who doesn't end the day in chaos but in calm. The kind of person who chooses presence over distraction. That identity, built slowly through your nightly choices, becomes unshakable. Even when life gets difficult, the ritual remains. It becomes your anchor, something you return to when everything else feels uncertain. It is in those moments that discipline truly reveals its power. Not in perfect conditions, but in adversity. And because the ritual is simple and intentional, it doesn't require willpower to maintain. It becomes something you crave, something that feels incomplete without its presence. That is the mark of true discipline. Not just doing the right thing occasionally, but creating an environment where the right thing becomes natural. In the world of high performance, there is a lot of emphasis on morning routines, but very few people talk about the discipline required to end the day well. Yet this is where the hidden advantage lies. When you master your nights, your mornings become effortless. Your mind is not clouded by leftover thoughts. Your body is not drained from emotional residue. You wake up lighter, clearer, more focused. That clarity compounds. It shows up in your decisions, your relationships, and your energy. Over time, it changes how you carry yourself. Discipline at night is not about restriction. It's about intention. You are not depriving yourself of pleasure. You are choosing peace over noise, growth over distraction, depth over surface. These choices may seem small in the moment, but they shape the entire trajectory of your life. One night may not make a difference, but 100 nights, 1,000 nights of ritual will create a version of you that is more grounded, more self-aware, and more in control of your destiny. When you take ownership of how you end your day, you take ownership of your mind. You remind yourself that your time is not something to be wasted unconsciously, but something to be honored. And that simple act of honoring time builds an inner discipline that nothing external can shake. The night ritual then is not just about what you do before sleep. It is about who you become through that doing. And when you do it with presence, with patience, and with purpose, you build not only discipline, but also identity, alignment, and self-trust. That is the power of closing your day with intention. That is the unseen strength behind those who lead their lives from within.